The royal palace of the Zirath Empire stood like a mountain of crystal and light, its towers reaching beyond the clouds of the alien homeworld. Inside its grandest chamber, silence reigned, until the heavy doors opened and the Queen's guards stepped forward, their armor shining under the pale glow of the throne room. Behind them came the royal council, faces dark and tense. The Queen of Zirath, tall and regal, sat on her silver throne, her eyes sharp as burning stars. She sensed something was wrong before anyone spoke. "Speak," she commanded, her voice calm yet powerful. The eldest counselor bowed deeply, trembling as he held out a holographic report. "Your Majesty, there has been an attack near the outer colonies. The royal escort ship carrying the princes was destroyed." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Destroyed?" Her voice echoed across the marble walls. The counselor hesitated, then whispered the words that would break her heart. "No survivors, my queen." For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. The Queen's breath caught in her throat. Her world, the mighty Zirath Empire, felt suddenly hollow and cold. Then, a sound erupted from deep within her chest, a scream so raw and powerful that even the palace guards dropped to their knees. The cry echoed through the corridors, through the cities, and across the Empire's communication networks. Every Zirathian paused that day, hearing the sound of their queen's sorrow. But grief quickly turned to something far stronger: rage. Her claws tightened around the armrest of her throne, cutting deep marks into the metal. "Who did this?" she demanded. The generals exchanged glances, unsure how to speak. Finally, one of them stepped forward. "The attackers were unidentified, my queen, but human ships were detected nearby." The Queen's eyes flared with fury. "Humans," she whispered. "The same race I once called allies." She rose from her throne, her cloak of dark silk flowing behind her. "They betrayed us once during the war," she said. "I should have known they would do it again." The court fell silent as she walked toward the massive window overlooking the stars. Outside, entire fleets drifted like silver shadows, loyal to her command. "If the humans are responsible," she said, her voice cold as ice, "then they have declared war on the Zirath Empire." Her advisors tried to calm her, warning that no proof yet existed, that perhaps it was pirates or rebels. But she did not listen. Her heart could not hear logic through the storm of loss. "Send my armies to the human border," she ordered. "Find every human ship. Burn every human world if you must. I want answers and vengeance." As her command spread through the halls, soldiers prepared for war. Engines roared to life, and the banners of the Zirath Empire unfurled across the night sky. In every corner of the galaxy, alien diplomats began to whisper. The Queen had gone mad with grief. But she did not care. To her, her sons were gone, murdered by the only species arrogant enough to think they could hide from her wrath. Later that night, the Queen walked alone through her private chambers. The rooms were filled with memories. The toys her sons once played with, the paintings they made, the laughter that once filled these walls. Now, only silence remained. She touched a small star-shaped charm that one of her sons had made for her. A simple gift, rough and imperfect, but precious beyond all treasure. She pressed it against her chest and whispered, "My sons, my light, I will avenge you." Outside, the storm raged across the capital. Lightning danced across the energy shields that protected the palace. The Queen stood at her window, her reflection caught between the flashes of blue light. Her eyes glowed like twin fires, filled with fury and pain. "Humans will pay," she said softly. Her voice, though quiet, carried the weight of an empire. But across the distant stars, far from her empire's reach, something moved. In a forgotten corner of space, a small planet orbited a dying sun. On its surface lay the remains of a crashed ship, broken metal, smoke rising from twisted wings. Inside the wreck, two small figures stirred, weak but alive. The faint light of morning touched their faces, faces that bore the same markings as the Queen herself. The princes, her lost sons, were not dead. They were breathing, unconscious but safe, in the arms of a different kind of being. Nearby, footsteps approached. A group of humans, wearing exploration suits, moved carefully among the wreckage. One of them, a tall man with a calm voice, knelt beside the children. "My God," he said quietly, scanning their vitals. "They're still alive." His companion looked shocked. "Do you know who they are?" The man nodded slowly. "I think they're the Zirath princes." He turned toward the others. "Get them to the ship. Now." And not a word to command. "If the Queen finds out before we know what happened, we'll all be dead." As they carried the princes toward their ship, the stars above shimmered quietly. The humans had no idea what kind of storm was already moving toward them. In the heart of the Zirath Empire, an alien queen prepared for war, believing her children were gone forever. And far away, on a lonely planet, her son slept peacefully in the care of the very species she had just sworn to destroy. Far away from the Queen's empire, in a quiet corner of unexplored space, a small human science outpost floated above a green planet. It wasn't a military base, just a remote research station built to study new life forms and strange mineral patterns. Life there was peaceful and uneventful, until that morning. Commander Riley stood by the main control deck, sipping cold coffee as he watched the scanners flicker. He had been with the Space Exploration Corps for 10 years, and nothing surprised him anymore. But when the motion alarms started to beep, even he frowned. "That's not a meteor," said the young technician beside him. The readings showed heat, energy, and something biological. Riley leaned closer. "Show me the visuals." The holographic screen blinked, showing a small object in the forest below, half buried under smoke. It wasn't human-made. Its design looked alien. Within minutes, Riley organized a small rescue team. They boarded a drop shuttle and descended through the misty clouds. The forest was silent when they landed. Steam rose from the ground, and the scent of burned metal filled the air. "Keep your eyes open," Riley ordered. They moved carefully toward the source of the signal. Soon, through the trees, they saw the wreck, a small silver pod, half crushed but intact enough to recognize as an escape craft. Strange markings covered its surface. Riley brushed the dirt from the side and froze when he read the symbols. "Zerathian," he whispered. His team exchanged shocked looks. The Zirath Empire was the most feared civilization in the known galaxy. No one dared to cross their borders, and now one of their ships lay here, on a forgotten planet. Riley forced the hatch open. A soft hiss escaped, followed by the faint sound of breathing. Inside, he saw two small figures lying still. Children, covered in strange robes, their skin pale blue, their faces calm but weak. Their small hands were tightly clasped together. The medic quickly scanned them. "Alive," she said in disbelief. "They are alive." Riley stepped closer, watching as one of the children stirred. His heart pounded. These were no ordinary aliens. Their symbols, their robes, everything matched the royal Zirath lineage. He swallowed hard. "Everyone, listen carefully," he said. "Not a word of this leaves this planet. We take them back to the outpost, we treat them, and we keep them safe." They carried the two princes to the shuttle and flew back through the clouds. As they entered the base, the crew whispered to each other, afraid of what this discovery could mean. Back on the bridge, Riley stood alone, staring at the stars. He knew what the galaxy was like. News like this could spark war in an instant. The Zirath were already on edge, and if they believed humans had taken their royal heirs, the consequences would be catastrophic. "Commander," the medic interrupted his thoughts. "They're stable now, but they're very young, frightened." One of them called out in his sleep. Riley nodded and followed her into the med bay. The children were lying on medical beds, surrounded by soft lights and humming machines. They looked fragile, almost peaceful. Riley felt a strange ache in his chest. These were supposed to be enemies, but looking at them, he saw only two lost souls. One of the boys stirred and opened his eyes. His pupils glowed faintly golden, and when he saw Riley, he flinched, whispering a word Riley couldn't understand. "It's okay," Riley said softly, kneeling beside him. "You're safe now. We won't hurt you." The boy blinked, confused, then pointed weakly to his brother. Riley smiled gently. He's safe too. The child's eyes softened, and before long, exhaustion pulled him back to sleep. Later, in the command room, Riley's second-in-command, Lieutenant Harris, paced nervously. We should report this, he argued. If the Alliance finds out we're hiding Royal Zirath heirs, they'll call it treason. Riley shook his head. If we report it, the news will spread in hours. The Zirath Queen will think we kidnapped them. You've heard the stories. She doesn't negotiate. She destroys. Harris hesitated. So what do we do? Riley looked out the window toward the planet's blue horizon. We protect them, he said, until we know the truth. That night, the base was quiet. The lights dimmed, the machines hummed softly, and the storm outside brushed gently against the station's shields. In the med bay, the two young princes slept under human blankets. One of them murmured something in his native tongue, turning in his sleep, his small hand reaching out. Riley, still sitting nearby, reached forward and gently held it. For a moment, everything was peaceful. The war, the fear, the hatred between species, all gone. Only the faint sound of breathing and the soft heartbeat of life remained. But far beyond that small outpost, the galaxy was anything but calm. Across light years of empty space, the Queen of Zirath stood on her flagship's bridge, her eyes cold and sharp as blades. Before her, 1,000 ships waited, ready for her command. The humans think they can hide from me, she said quietly. Let them try. Her fleet turned toward human territory, engines glowing like stars about to explode. The hunt for her lost sons had begun. And on that small human outpost, unaware of the storm heading their way, two alien princes slept peacefully on a world they had never seen before, under the protection of the very species their mother had sworn to destroy. The darkness of space shimmered with the lights of 1,000 engines as the Queen's fleet moved through the void. Her ships were vast and silent, built for war, each one carrying the symbol of the royal house of Zirath, a golden flame upon black steel. From the command bridge of her flagship, the Queen watched the stars slide past. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of fury. Search every sector near the human border, she ordered. Scan every frequency. I want proof. If my sons are alive, I will find them. If they are dead, I will make the humans pay. Her advisors nodded and spread her command across the fleet. Within hours, the entire galaxy knew the Zirath Empire was on the hunt. Far away, on the quiet human outpost, life carried on under a strange new routine. Commander Riley had ordered complete communication silence. No one was allowed to contact the Central Alliance or send data logs. The small crew worked in secret, caring for the two alien princes. Inside the med bay, the hum of medical devices filled the room. The younger prince, barely 10 years old by human standards, was awake now. His golden eyes watched everything with curiosity. The older one, Arix, was stronger and more cautious. He studied the humans silently, trying to understand if they were enemies or saviors. Riley visited them often. He brought simple food, tried to teach them basic English, and made sure they felt safe. The translator device helped a little, but sometimes words failed. One evening, Arix finally spoke through the translator, his voice soft but steady. Why did you save us? Riley was quiet for a moment before replying, because no child should die alone in the dark. The boy frowned, confused by the answer. Even if we are Zirath. Riley nodded. Especially if you are Zirath. For a moment, the boy said nothing. Then he whispered, Mother said humans are dangerous. Riley smiled faintly. She might be right, he said. But not today. The younger prince giggled softly, the sound echoing through the quiet room. For the first time since their rescue, the atmosphere felt lighter. Outside the base, storms rolled across the planet's surface, winds howling against the metal walls. Inside, the crew began to feel the pressure of their secret. Lieutenant Harris worried every hour. Commander, he said one night, pacing near the control panel, we can't hide them forever. Sooner or later, someone will come looking. Riley rubbed his forehead, exhausted. I know. But what choice do we have? If we hand them over without proof, the Queen will destroy us all. Harris lowered his voice. What if she already thinks we did it? Riley looked up sharply. The idea hit him like ice. If the Queen believed the humans were guilty, war could already be spreading. That same night, miles above their outpost, something flickered in orbit. A small black probe drifting through the darkness. Its sensors scanned the planet, locked onto the human base, and silently transmitted data before vanishing into the void. The humans never noticed. Hours later, that signal reached the Zerath flagship. The Queen's eyes widened as she watched the holographic feed. Two small life forms with royal energy signatures inside a human facility. Her claws tightened. So it is true, she hissed. Humans took them. She turned to her generals. Prepare the fleets. Set course for the human outpost. If they refuse to return my children, she didn't finish her sentence. She didn't need to. The look in her eyes said enough. Back at the human base, the next morning began like any other. The children played with a small robotic drone, laughing quietly as it floated around them. The crew watched from a distance, surprised at how human the sound of laughter could be, no matter the species. But deep down, Riley felt uneasy. Something was coming. He could feel it in the air, the calm before the storm. Later that day, the alarm sirens broke the silence. The radar detected massive energy signatures entering the system. Riley rushed to the control deck. Report, he shouted. The technician's hands shook as she read the data. Multiple ships, unknown configuration, approaching fast. The display filled with red lights. Riley's eyes widened. Zerath fleet, he muttered. She found us. The base shook as the first energy waves hit the atmosphere. From the window, Riley saw them. Dozens of dark ships cutting through the sky, like shadows of war descending upon the planet. Evacuate the children to the safe room, he ordered. Harris hesitated. Commander, we can't outrun them. Riley turned sharply. We're not running. He looked back at the princes, who were staring in confusion and fear. I promised them safety, he said quietly. And I keep my promises. As the lights flickered and the ground trembled, the humans prepared to defend their small station against a force that could destroy worlds. Above them, the Queen's voice echoed across all channels, a royal broadcast that filled the room with chilling calm. To the humans who took what is mine, she said, return my sons, or your world will burn. The message ended, leaving only silence and the distant sound of thunder. Riley looked out at the sky, his heart pounding. Then we'd better show her, he whispered, that humans don't burn easy. And as the alien fleet descended through the clouds, the war that no one wanted was about to begin. The storm outside grew darker as the alien fleet covered the sky. The human outpost was now surrounded, its metal walls trembling under the weight of the energy fields above. Inside the command room, red lights flashed across every screen. Commander Riley stood in the center, calm but tense. His team watched him, waiting for orders. All systems on lockdown, he said firmly. No one fires unless I give the command. We're not starting a war. Through the thick windows, the first of the Zerath landing crafts descended, glowing like fireballs as they cut through the clouds. When they hit the ground, the shockwave shook the entire station. Dust and smoke filled the air. The soldiers could see shadows, tall, armored figures stepping out of the alien ships. The Queen had arrived. From her royal transport, the alien Queen stepped down, surrounded by her guards. Her silver armor gleamed under the lightning. Her eyes glowed bright blue with fury. Every movement she made carried power and authority. She looked at the small human outpost with disgust. So this is where they hide, she whispered coldly. Pathetic. Her generals moved beside her. Shall we destroy it, my queen? One asked. The Queen's gaze hardened. Not yet. I want to see the faces of those who dared to touch what is mine. Back inside, the base sensors went wild as the alien troops surrounded the perimeter. Lieutenant Harris ran to Riley. Commander, this is suicide. We can't fight them. One shot from those ships, and with dust. Riley didn't answer. His eyes were on the security feed showing the med bay. The two alien princes were there, scared but unharmed. "We're not fighting," he said quietly. "We're protecting them." Harris frowned. "They are the reason we're about to die." Riley looked at him sharply. "They are children. And they're innocent. You think the Queen will listen if we surrender them? She'll kill us anyway. We need to show her the truth before it's too late." Moments later, a voice came through the intercom, deep and commanding. "This is Queen Zirath of the Royal Empire. Commander Riley of the Human Station. Surrender immediately and release my heirs." Everyone in the room froze. Riley took a deep breath and pressed the comm switch. "This is Commander Riley," he said steadily. "Your Majesty, we didn't harm your children. We found them in a crashed pod. We saved them." The silence that followed was heavy. Then came the Queen's cold reply, "Lies. Humans have always lied." Her voice was filled with venom. "You expect me to believe you saved them, when you have already stolen from the stars." Riley closed his eyes for a second, trying to calm the frustration rising inside him. "If I wanted to hurt them, they wouldn't be alive right now," he said. "If you destroy this station, you destroy your sons too." For a moment, even the Queen hesitated. But her rage was too deep, her grief too strong. "You will open your gates," she said, "or I will open them for you." She raised her hand, and her ships aimed their cannons at the outpost. Inside, alarms screamed again. The humans scrambled to power up shields. Energy fields flickered around the base as the first blast hit. The ground shook, lights dimmed, and panels sparked. "Shields down to 60%, someone shouted. Riley gritted his teeth. "Hold them steady." The noise was deafening, the walls vibrating as another explosion hit nearby. In the med bay, the princes woke up crying. The younger one grabbed Arix's hand, frightened by the shaking. "They're coming for us," he said in his native tongue. Arix tried to be brave, but he was trembling too. When Riley rushed in, they both looked at him with wide eyes. "Are we going to die?" the younger one asked softly. Riley knelt beside him. "Not if I can help it," he said. "Your mother's here. She thinks we hurt you, but we're going to show her the truth. You have to trust me." Outside, the Queen's fleet prepared for the final strike. Her generals waited for her signal. "My Queen," one of them said, "if we attack now, the children may be harmed." She glared at him. "If the humans have them, they are already harmed." Her voice shook with emotion. "They took everything from me. My trust, my peace, my sons. I will not rest until they pay." But just as she raised her hand to give the final order, a small voice crackled through her communicator. It wasn't human. It was soft, weak, but unmistakable. "Mother," the Queen froze. Her eyes widened, her breath catching. "What?" The voice came again, clearer this time. "Mother, please, stop." Her heart twisted. That was her son's voice. On the ground, inside the base, Riley had activated the communication link. The older prince, Arix, was speaking into the MIC, his little hands trembling. "Mother, we are alive," he said, tears in his eyes. "Humans saved us. They kept us safe. Please don't hurt them." Silence spread through space. Every soldier on both sides froze. The Queen stood motionless, staring at the holographic display. There they were, her children, alive, breathing, frightened, but safe. Her anger broke like glass. The fire in her eyes dimmed, replaced by shock and disbelief. On the human base, everyone waited. Minutes passed like hours. Then finally, the Queen's voice returned, softer, almost trembling. "Prepare for my landing," she said. "I am coming down." As her ship descended toward the planet, the humans lowered their shields, unsure what would happen next. The storm clouds parted, revealing the massive royal vessel landing near the base. The Queen of Zirath was coming face to face with the species she had sworn to destroy, and with the humans who had done the one thing she thought impossible. They had brought her sons back from death, The ground trembled as the royal ship of the Zirath Queen descended through the clouds, glowing with blinding blue light. Its engines howled like thunder, kicking up waves of dust and smoke that rolled across the human outpost. Every soldier, every scientist, every technician stopped what they were doing and stared at the massive shadow landing outside their base. The Queen of Zirath had arrived. Commander Riley stood near the entrance bay, his uniform stained with dust and sweat. His crew looked terrified. Lieutenant Harris whispered, "She's really coming here." "We're dead, sir." Riley didn't answer. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was clear. He looked back at the two princes, standing behind him in the corridor. They were trembling, holding each other's hands tightly. "Stay close," Riley told them softly. "Whatever happens, don't run. She needs to see you first." Outside, the Queen stepped onto the ground, surrounded by her elite guards. Her armor shimmered silver and blue under the stormy sky. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with emotion. Anger, grief, and something close to fear. She had dreamed of this moment every night since she was told her sons were dead. But now, standing on this foreign world, she wasn't sure if she could believe what she was feeling. Her general approached and saluted. "Your Majesty, the humans are inside. Should we take the base?" She raised her hand. "No, I will go alone." The doors of the outpost slid open slowly with a loud hiss. The humans inside held their breath as the tall figure of the Queen entered, her presence filling the entire chamber with quiet power. Riley stepped forward, unarmed, standing straight though his legs felt heavy. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice calm. "We mean you no harm." Her gaze locked onto him, sharp, cold, and unreadable. "You took my sons," she said. "You hid them from me." Riley met her eyes without fear. "No," he replied. "We saved them." The Queen's eyes narrowed, and the air seemed to thicken. "Do not lie to me, human. My fleet found your base. My probes saw them here." "Why?" Riley didn't move. "Because their escape pod crashed near our station. We found them dying. We gave them food, medicine, and shelter. We didn't even tell our command because we knew what would happen if word got out. You would come, and this would turn into war." For a moment, there was silence. The Queen stared at him, searching his face for deceit. Then a soft sound broke the tension, a small voice from behind Riley. "Mother." The Queen froze. Slowly, her eyes turned toward the sound. Two small figures stepped forward, their blue skin glowing softly under the white lights of the base. The princes, her sons, alive, standing, their eyes wide with tears. The Queen's breath caught in her throat. Her guards instinctively took a step forward, but she raised her hand, stopping them. Her body trembled as she whispered, "Arix, Kale." The children ran forward before anyone could react. The Queen dropped to her knees and caught them in her arms, her royal crown clattering softly to the floor. She held them tightly, her tears falling onto their faces. "You're alive," she whispered again and again. "You're alive." Everyone in the room watched in silence. Even the humans who had feared her moments ago stood frozen, unable to look away from the scene. The sound of the Queen's sobs echoed softly in the cold metal hall. For the first time, she didn't look like a ruler or a warrior. She looked like a mother. After what felt like forever, she lifted her head and looked back at Riley. Her face was wet with tears, her voice quiet but filled with power. "You saved them." Riley nodded once. "Yes, Your Majesty." She studied him for a long time, as if she was seeing a human for the first time in her life, not as an enemy, but as something different. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you risk everything for my children?" Riley hesitated, then spoke the truth. "Because they needed help. That's what humans do, even when the universe hates us." The Queen blinked slowly, the words settling deep inside her. She looked at her sons again. The younger one smiled up at her. "Mother, they took care of us," he said softly. "They gave us food and told us stories." She smiled weakly through her tears. "Stories?" The boy nodded. "About Earth. About oceans and mountains. About kindness. The queen exhaled shakily, her eyes glimmering. She stood slowly, still holding her sons close. The room was silent as she turned toward her guards and generals waiting outside. With a calm but commanding voice, she spoke into her communicator. "Stand down," she said. "All ships, cease fire immediately." The order spread through the fleet in seconds. The skies grew quiet. The war that had almost begun ended before the first battle. The queen turned back to Riley. "Your people have earned something rare today," she said softly. "My respect." She reached into the clasp of her armor and removed a glowing insignia, a royal emblem of the Zirath throne. She placed it in Riley's hand. "This marks you as a protector of my bloodline. If ever the galaxy turns against you, show them this." Riley looked down at the emblem, stunned. "Your Majesty, she raised a hand. "Do not thank me. You did what even my own soldiers could not." Her sons hugged her tightly again, then turned to Riley. The older one smiled shyly. "Goodbye, Commander," he said. Riley smiled back. "Goodbye, little princes. Stay safe out there." As the queen led her children back to her ship, the humans stood watching in silence. The air felt lighter, as if the universe itself had taken a deep breath of peace. The queen stopped at the door and looked back one last time. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "I have been wrong about your kind." Then she was gone, leaving only the faint echo of her voice and the soft hum of her ship fading into the sky. Commander Riley stood there for a long time, staring at the stars. For the first time in days, he smiled. Against all odds, humanity had done something impossible. They had changed the heart of a queen who once saw them as monsters. And somewhere, in the endless dark of space, that small act of kindness had just rewritten the fate of two worlds. Weeks passed since the queen's visit to the human outpost, yet the galaxy still whispered about what had happened that day. Across star systems, rumors spread like fire, how the feared Zirath queen had bowed her head in gratitude before a human commander. Some refused to believe it. Others called it a legend. But those who had seen it knew the truth. Something powerful had changed. Commander Riley stood on the observation deck of the base, watching the twin suns rise over the barren horizon. The scars of the Queen's landing were still visible, burnt soil, melted steel. But in his mind, all he could think about was the look on her face when she held her sons. That moment had burned itself into his memory. He had seen empires rise and fall, but never a moment of peace as real as that. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Commander," came Lieutenant Harris's voice through the intercom. "Incoming transmission. It's encrypted. High priority." Riley frowned. "From who?" "Unknown source. But the encryption looks royal." Riley's pulse quickened. "Patch it through." The holographic screen flickered to life, and there she was, the Zirath Queen herself. No throne, no armor, no guards. Just her. Her face calm, her tone steady, her eyes strangely gentle. "Commander Riley," she said softly, "you and your people showed me something I thought your kind lacked, honor." Riley stood tall. "Your Majesty, we were only doing what was right." She smiled faintly. "And that is why it matters." Her image shifted slightly as if she leaned closer. "For centuries, my kind saw humans as chaos bringers. Unpredictable. Dangerous. We were taught to fear what we could not control. But your actions showed me something else. You protect what others would abandon." Riley didn't know what to say. The Queen continued, "My sons speak of you often. They call you the human who brought the stars back." Her voice softened even more. "They sleep peacefully now, for the first time since the attack." She paused, as if searching for the right words. "And for that, humanity will never be forgotten." Riley bowed his head slightly. "That means more than you know, Your Majesty." The Queen's eyes glimmered. "I am aware, which is why I am sending you this." The hologram flickered again, and a new image appeared, a massive emblem, glowing with blue and gold light. "This," she said, "is the crest of Accord. It will be transmitted to every major power across the Zirath Dominion. It declares humanity as a protected species under my royal decree. Riley's eyes widened. Protected? You mean, she nodded. No one will harm your people again. Not while I breathe. Her tone hardened slightly. There will be those who resist, those who question my choice. But they will learn. Kindness, Commander, can be more powerful than fear. He stood silent, trying to find words that fit the moment. But before he could speak, the Queen continued, You have my gratitude. And one more thing. My sons wish to visit your world someday. They wish to see Earth. Riley smiled for the first time in days. If that day comes, they'll be welcome. As friends. The Queen's lips curved into the faintest smile. Then perhaps there is hope for us all. With that, the transmission ended, leaving the command deck bathed in the fading blue glow of her hologram. Riley turned to his crew. Harris stood nearby, eyes wide in disbelief. Did that really just happen? He asked quietly. Riley nodded. It did. Harris whistled softly. So, the most feared ruler in the galaxy just made us untouchable. Riley gave a small grin. No, he said. We didn't become untouchable. We became something better, trusted. Outside the window, the stars shimmered like scattered diamonds. Somewhere among them, the Queen's ship traveled home, her heart lighter than it had ever been. And though no treaty was signed, no document written, the bond between human and Zirath had been sealed in something far stronger, gratitude. Days turned to months, and the galaxy began to shift. Human ships that once had to hide in the shadows now traveled openly through Zirath-controlled space. Alien merchants began trading with Earth colonies again. Even the Galactic Council, once filled with disdain for humans, spoke of new possibilities. Peace, fragile but real, began to grow. And every night, Commander Riley would stand on that same deck, staring at the stars, wondering if somewhere out there, the Queen was doing the same. The universe had always been cold and cruel. But now, thanks to one act of compassion, a spark of warmth had begun to spread across its endless darkness. Because in the end, it wasn't power that changed the galaxy. It was humanity. Months passed into a quiet calm the galaxy hadn't known in generations. Trade routes reopened, border patrols stood down, and even the harsh voices in the Galactic Council had grown strangely silent. Yet, beneath the peace, tension still lingered, like the last embers of a dying fire waiting for a gust of wind. Commander Riley knew it. So did the Queen. One evening, Riley was standing in the communications bay, reviewing star charts, when an urgent signal appeared on his monitor. An authorized transmission, encrypted, Zirath frequency. He frowned. Again. The last time that signature appeared, it had come from the Queen herself. But when he opened it, what appeared on the screen wasn't the Queen. It was one of her generals, General Threx. His tone was cold, his expression sharper than a blade. Commander Riley of Earth, Threx began. You and your kind may have fooled our Queen, but not all of us believe in your kindness. There are those in the Empire who think you have manipulated her grief. Some even whisper that humans caused the ambush that took her sons. Riley's jaw tightened. We saved them. We bled for them. Threx sneered. So you say. But there are many who want proof. And some of those are no longer willing to wait. The signal cut out before Riley could reply. The screen went dark, but his instincts screamed that something bad was coming. Within hours, sensors began flashing red. An unidentified fleet was entering the outer system. Zirath ships, heavily armed. Harris rushed in. Sir, we've got multiple energy readings, cruisers, destroyers, maybe more. No response to our hails. Riley clenched his fists. So much for peace. Outside, the sky lit up with streaks of light as ships descended like thunderbolts. The ground trembled, alarms blared, and human soldiers scrambled into defensive positions. But then, before the first shot was fired, a single massive ship appeared among the invaders. Larger, darker, and covered in royal markings. Riley recognized it instantly. The Queen, he whispered. The invading ships froze in formation as the royal vessel broadcast an open signal. The Queen's voice thundered through every frequency, cold and fierce. "Stand down." Her tone carried a power that made even the stars seem to hold their breath. "You dare raise weapons in my name without my command." On board her ship, the rebellious generals fell silent. Threx's image appeared beside her in the command chamber, trembling with anger. "My queen, we act only in defense of our people. The humans cannot be trusted." She turned her gaze toward him, ice and fire in her eyes. "Then it is not the humans you fear. It is the truth." She raised her hand, and the royal insignia on her wrist began to glow. "By the decree of the Zirath throne, I strip you of rank and honor. You will answer for your defiance." Threx tried to speak, but the guards seized him instantly. The other captains, seeing their general fall, quickly powered down their weapons. Down on the human base, the alarms stopped. The skies grew quiet once more. Riley exhaled slowly as the Queen's hologram appeared before him again, her face serious. "Commander," she said, "I told you the galaxy would resist what we built. But this was faster than I expected." Riley nodded grimly. "It's not easy to change what people fear." The Queen gave a small, weary smile. "No. But that is why we must continue. I have silenced those who sought war, but others will come. When they do, remember this: peace is not given. It is fought for, every single day." Riley looked at her, truly seeing her, not as an alien queen, not as a ruler, but as someone who carried the same weight he did. "Then we'll fight for it," he said. "Together." The Queen tilted her head slightly, a gesture of respect in her culture. "Together," she echoed. As her ship pulled away, its engines glowing like a new sun, Riley stood watching. The stars seemed brighter that night, their light no longer cold but alive. He realized then that what they had created wasn't just peace. It was the beginning of something larger. Word spread quickly across the galaxy. The rebellion had failed. The Queen stood beside humanity once more. And in the shadows of 1,000 worlds, new voices began to whisper, not of fear, but of curiosity. Maybe, they said, humans weren't monsters after all. Maybe, they were something the galaxy had never seen before. The spark of unity had survived the storm. But far beyond the peaceful stars, something darker was watching. Something that did not want the galaxy to heal. And as Riley stared into the endless night, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real war, the one that would test what it truly meant to be human, was only just beginning. Weeks turned into months, and for a brief time, the galaxy felt calm again. Trade resumed, alliances began to form, and the name humanity no longer carried the same fear it once did. But in the silent corners of deep space, beyond the borders of the Zirath Empire, beyond even the reach of the Queen's authority, something ancient had begun to awaken. Commander Riley stood on the deck of the Argos, Earth's first diplomatic cruiser built under the new peace accords. The ship shimmered with both human and Zirath technology, an impossible hybrid that symbolized hope. The crew called it the bridge between worlds. Riley smiled at the name. It felt right. But peace, he knew, was fragile. A message came through the comms, encrypted and urgent. The voice belonged to the Queen herself. "Commander Riley," she began, her tone grave, "you must listen carefully. We have detected strange energy readings on the edge of the void sector. They match no known technology." Riley frowned. "Pirates?" "No," she replied. "Something older." The transmission flickered. Static filled the air. Then, through the interference, came a deep, distorted voice. "Not Zirath, not human. You have awakened what was buried. The pact of silence is broken." The channel cut instantly. The entire crew froze. Harris whispered, "What was that?" Riley's gut twisted. He turned to the navigator. "Plot a course to those coordinates." The navigator hesitated. "Sir, that's uncharted space." Riley's eyes hardened. "Then it's time we chart it." The Argos entered the void sector hours later. The stars grew thin, the light dimmer, until space itself seemed to press in around them. And then, they found it. A colossal structure, drifting among shattered moons. Its surface was black, pulsing faintly with blue light. The readings were off the charts, ancient energy, older than any known civilization. As they approached, a soft hum filled the ship. The engines flickered. Systems dimmed. And then the voice came again, louder, clearer, like a whisper from the abyss. We watched as you destroyed yourselves once before, and now you gather again. Riley's pulse raced. Who are you? He shouted. The voice replied, we are the ones who ended the first war of life. The ones your kind called gods. The entire crew went silent. Even the air felt heavy. The Queen's transmission suddenly broke through again, her voice sharp with alarm. Riley, pull back immediately. Those signals, they are from the ancients. The architects who vanished before any of us existed. But it was too late. The black structure began to move, its outer shell unfolding like the petals of a metal flower. Streams of blue energy lit up across its surface. And in that blinding moment, they saw it, hundreds of massive constructs activating in the darkness, as if awakening from a deep sleep. The Argos trembled. All power to shields. Riley shouted, we're getting out of here. The engines roared as the ship turned sharply, racing through the void. Behind them, the massive structures began emitting signals across every known frequency. Ancient code, impossible to translate. But one phrase, buried deep in the noise, repeated over and over. The cycle begins again. Back on Zerath Prime, the Queen stood in her war room, surrounded by her generals. The holographic image of the awakened fleet filled the air. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were filled with dread. They are not just a threat to humans or to Zerath. They are a threat to life itself. She turned to her advisor. Send word to every system. Prepare the fleets. But, Your Majesty, the general said, you mean to fight alongside the humans. The Queen looked out the window at the twin moons above her palace, her face illuminated by their light. I mean to fight for survival, she said. And this time, the humans will not fight alone. Meanwhile, on the Argos, Commander Riley watched the stars streak by as they escaped the void. His face was calm, but his mind raced. The galaxy had just taken its first breath of peace, and already, a new storm was rising. He glanced at the small emblem the Queen had given him, still clipped to his chest armor. A symbol of unity, of trust. He clenched his fist around it and whispered, then we'll stand together. The stars outside pulsed faintly, as if answering his words. Somewhere in the endless dark, ancient machines stirred, and the fate of every world, human and alien alike, hung in the balance. Because in the vast silence of the cosmos, a truth echoed louder than ever before. The universe had underestimated humanity once. It would not make that mistake again.